Howdy, folks. Out here continuing on the 7.3 series. Uh, going to continue on with the keys to longevity. A lot of this, I've sat there thinking about it, and a lot of it's just really common sense maintenance for any vehicle. But, anyways, and it kind of all ties into other things like the cost of ownership and, the long term thoughts of things, right? But, really, we're going to touch on oil changes a bit deeper, and also I'm going to show you one of my oil analysis tests, and actually I think about 4 of them really, because they're all on one page after you've done quite a few of them. So we're going to start with that there. And as far as the oil changes, I don't go necessarily by mileage. I go by more so what I've been doing with the vehicle, right? If I've had the gooseneck strapped to the damn thing the entire time, I'm going to shoot for probably an interval around 3,000 miles tops. I mean, maybe even a little less. Like if I have that gooseneck loaded, she's probably when I've got her fully loaded, maybe 12,000 pounds or so, maybe 13, 14 even. And when I have it that heavy, I do really try to pay attention to oil and when she gets dirty. I mean, I think the most I've ever stretched it out on an oil change interval since I've had this was about 5,300 miles or so. One of those kind of things where I was traveling a couple road trips and it adds up, so it was all highlight miles. But anyways, with that said, oil, for the first really, I guess 150,000 miles, this truck really only had 2 kinds of oil, and it had a little bit of Delo, maybe on 2 changes, and then mainly some, of course, buried. Anyways, Motorcraft 1540 in the 5-quart jug, which makes it easy because this is a 15 quart change. You buy 3 5s, 15, easy, rather than buying the quart or 1 gallon bottles where you get 3 quarts, 4 quarts in a gallon, right? So kind of makes it a little easier buying those Motorcraft bottles. But anyways, so like I said in the previous video, I always run FL 1995 filters. And as far as the the change, I always do them myself, so I always have a good idea if something looks a little funny, right? So I guess as far as in the last, let's see, probably 20,000 miles or so, I've kind of changed over to running mobile Delvac, just standard 1540, and actually, let's see, yeah, so running some of this here, right? And overall, this stuff, when I drain it out at a 3,000 or 4,000 mile interval, this stuff drains out a lot clearer. Now, I will say I've been running this as like a blend. So I've running about 60% this Delvac, and then running about 30% the Motorcraft. So 60, 30 and the mix. And honestly, this stuff, the soot control in this is phenomenal. So I've been running this. Actually, I've got this right now over in the Ram, even though I think it's kind of pointless to have something really crazy in there. Not that this is crazy, because I really don't drive that right now a lot. But anyway, so that's what's in there. And the soot control in it, like I said, is amazing. The Motorcraft at 3,000 miles will drain that stuff out. It is like nasty black stuff, and you drain it out with that mobile, and it is by far a lot cleaner. I mean, noticeably. So now with that said, I might skip ahead here to my oil analysis. So I've been doing Blackstone oil analysis reports, and I blocked off my personal info there. But so you got your unit ID, you got a 7.3 Powerstroke Navistar. So you get some universal averages. These are easy to read, right? And so, for example, universal average for zinc is about, 12,076. And so back at 198K when I did the first one, I had 1248. Then at 207K. I had 1105, then at what, 230K, basically 227, so another 20,000 miles later I had 12 under 2, and then so that, you know, that averages out, plus my last one at 251K as at 1040. So notice that zinc dropped off, and what it was in the last 20,000 miles here, I was running mix of that mobile and motorcraft. So I'm thinking that the zinc in that motorcraft is far less, would be my guess. But anyway, so, and you know, when you do these oil analysis, they kind of give you a little, I don't know, written summary of what's going on. But I mean, it's pretty easy to read all these, especially if you know what some of these metals are, some of the, you might say some of the chemicals and stuff that are in there. You can also do a TBN analysis, which basically tells you how much active additives are left in the oil, saying that you can go on a longer interval if you'd like. So, and based on these guys back then, I could have, and I kind of just was like, at this point, I don't really care what my interval is. I'm going to be changing it between 3,000 and 5,000 miles when it gets dirty. So the TBN number really didn't matter to me much. But anyways, I think these are really helpful in potentially identifying a major pending issue or something that has changed, right? So all of a sudden, if you see, like, you know, let's just say, you know, maybe your silicon or calcium, sodium, something like that spike, you might have something internal going on. Some of your nickel, maybe some of your bearings, something like that going bad, breaking down. So, you know, I think those are pretty good idea to do. Now, kind of to the clean fuel aspect, right? Kind of touched on that a lot with the 2 other videos we did there about fuel filters and everything and where to buy the fuel. But I think as far as keeping things running good, you know, my favorite additive that I've ran in this thing is this Stanodyne, by far. That stuff there is garbage as far as I'm concerned. I've gelled up with that twice, 2 different occasions, 2 different winters. So it's not like a, you know, same batch or anything. So I really stay away from that power service. The reason I kind of have that is for the RAM, because that is a USLD compliant additive, whereas let's see, this CRC is not. This is all for like 2007 and older, pre-emissions. So anyways, but that Stanodyne is a bee's knees. Howells I've not been impressed with, mainly the cost of it, as well as the bottle is an absolute pain in the ass to dump into your fill neck. So some of these bottles, you know, I hate to say it, but it's easier to dump these guys in and these old Stanodyne bottles into your tank. Now, one thing I have ran is this Diesel Extreme by Hot Shots. You know, I dumped this stuff in there, measured fuel for about the following 1,000 miles, and I didn't notice any difference. I didn't notice any difference in startup, any of that. So I don't know, that stuff I don't think is really any different in reality than the Stanodyne, although I've seen some videos comparing that where the Hot Shots is by far the best. I think that Project Farm channel, he's got one test sample he did with all those, and that Hot Shot stuff on it, like from a corrosion perspective, was outstanding. So that's nice, especially water disbursement, things of that nature. So I think this is a crucial step to having one of these trucks run smooth and not having to worry about it, is fuel injector, anti-gel, lubricity additives, right? Ever since the crazy people above in the government and the EPA got rid of all the damn phosphorus and the and sulfur and the damn diesel fuel, you know, it's dry, and these older trucks are just not designed for it, right? So adding, I think, that back in, I really do think it does a lot in terms of just the entire fuel system, right, from the pump to the injector. So and not to mention fuel economy, I do notice if I don't have any of that in there, usually I can notice it more on the towing side, but EGTs a little bit I can see difference, but I can definitely see the difference in fuel economy. Usually about 2 miles per gallon when I'm towing. So it does do something, especially that cetane. All right, wash and wax, keys to longevity with these old 7.3s. They're getting old, gotta keep them nice. When I wash this thing, I spend way more time washing underneath the truck than I do the side of the truck. Now, she's filthy right now. It's a bit cold up here, too cold to wash. But when I wash this thing, right, I get in here, I wash really deep in here behind the tire, down on the brake calipers, things like that. Get across on the frame all the way across, right? Then I always go down and all along with the pressure washer. And I probably spend about 5 minutes pressure washing the underside of the pickup whenever I go to the wash. So, and I think it shows, especially when you get under this truck. It is clean, especially for the type of environment that I drive it in. It's not like I'm down in Arizona or one of those really easy climates. Waxing, I don't do anything crazy with the waxing. I mean, it's kind of cool to do maybe a ceramic. I did do a long time ago, about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I did a clay bar on this thing, and that was time consuming. It was cool, but it's just, then I don't want to drive the truck for 6 weeks because then I don't want to get dirty. So anyways, but I try to wax it about twice a year, every 6 months or so. Summer or spring and fall, really. Addressing issues proactively that come up with the pickup, right? And by that I mean, if you hear a funny noise, you have a slight leak, or you just know that something under here hasn't been touched. Like, I know I need to do probably the carrier bearing on this because it's the factory carrier bearing. And so I've been keeping an eye on it, and that's one thing I need to probably just get under there and do. Cheap and relatively easy. I mean, it really is easy. And so those things like that, right? Even replacing things that you don't necessarily need to replace yet, I think, like if you're in there, right? When you're doing the front end, like when I replaced these hub assemblies the first time, I went ahead while I had all that shit apart, right? I replaced every seal and all my steering components and quite a bit of the bushings under here, sway bar links, things like that. So I think that's a crucial thing, right? Just being proactively and keeping these things going. All right, so 12 minutes. So warm up. Yes, I totally believe in the warm up on these. And ideally, I keep her plugged in as much as I can, even though she starts just fine in the cold. But I keep it plugged in the shop quite often, especially if I know I'm going somewhere that day. I'll just come in, plug it in, and be done with it. Or, even though it's, usually it's 55 degrees in here, I usually just keep her plugged in. That way when I hop in, my oil temps are up, my coolant temps are up, transmission's already slightly warm from the heat soak to the block. It's good to go, right? If it's not able to plug it in, I'm probably talking, if it's below 30, let's just say, 35 even, I probably let it warm up for a good 3 minutes, maybe 4 minutes. And when I get on it, I am easy, right? I'm just letting it basically idle out of the parking spot and down the road. So, not being hard on her at all. People will probably get behind me and a little frustrated because I'm going slow. Especially, with the trailer, right? Real slow. Now, as far as the cool down procedure, right? Anybody who's ever towed with one of these damn things knows that if you, let's say you climb up a mountain pass, you get to the top and you just stop to take a leak, right? This thing is friggin' hot. I'm talking hot. You come over here about a foot away with your leg or something, you're wearing some shorts in the middle of summer. This thing is hot enough that it's very uncomfortable within seconds. I'm talking 3 seconds. It's like, oh, you want to get away from that, right? And so it'll stay that hot at the stop idling out of a pass after you've pulled a big trailer or a load up. It'll stay that hot for a few minutes. So you watch your, okay, pay attention to your UGTs on these things and let her cool down. Just for, because I do have my gauge in there. We kind of seen that in one of my earlier videos on the channel, but yeah, I think the cool down on these is absolutely so important. Yeah, with that, I think those are my really, after how many years it's been since '07, right? Anyways, that's kind of my keys to longevity and success with these 7.3s. Really it comes down to the fuel, the filters, like any vehicle, keeping her clean, keeping the engine bay clean, pressure washing her, and just doing those real simple things just like religiously. So if anybody thinks I'm crazy buying that, please comment and I'll get back with you. Or if you do something that I kind of missed, let me know. So with that said, next up we're going to move into performance mods and kind of the thought process of that, which I'm more looking forward to, and then the actual order in which I've done the modifications I've done, and then finally the future relevancy of what I think the 7.3 will be like, say, in another 20 years. All right, take it easy, have a good night.